Erev Tov Chavrim, I'm Stephen Ben-Nun. You're watching Israeli News Live, and we have just a number of things we're going to be covering here this evening on our broadcast. First off, as you can see in the video footage here on the Daily Mail, Turkish military forces, every type of thing you can imagine, including equipment, earth-moving equipment, front-end loaders, track hose, also tanks, etc., are moving to the Syrian border. And it is, again, as President Erdogan has stated, that he is going to take, and he claims he's going to be dealing with terrorists that are inside of Syria. Well, he's talking about the Kurds, and the French are about the only military now that stands in between the Kurds and the Turkish military in an all-out war which would genocide an ethnic people living in this region. The Kurds are kind of in between several countries. They live mainly in eastern Turkey, also in northeastern Syria is where they were for many years, and then now, and of course also in far west Iraq. And this is becoming a big issue now with the Turkish military coming there to, as they say, to crush the PKK or the YPG, and which are organizations of the Kurdish fighters inside of Syria that have been very successful against ISIS militants. Now, there are some that claim that the Kurds over on the eastern side of the Euphrates have worked with the United States, also working with ISIS militants fighting the Syrian government. I've heard both sides of the story on that. I am aware of that as well. So I can't make heads or tails out of that. I do know that the Kurds have been lifted up by both U.S. Former and present presidents fighting against ISIS, as well as President Putin for their role in the conflict in Syria. But thus far, the Syrian government and the Kurdish fighters have never been able to reach a complete agreement to be able to fight together. In fact, if they were to join forces, that could change the tide in this long, 8-year-long war that is happening there in the Middle East. Moving on into other issues as well, Russia slams Israel for gross violation in the Syrian strikes that happened on Christmas Day, and that was kind of pretty much a very low blow to Syria, or excuse me, very low blow for Israel to do on the Syrian people on Christmas Day. And I'm sure Israel would say that they are still trying to protect them own selves from the Iranians and their movement of weapons into Lebanon. But nonetheless, a holy day of the year for the Christians of Damascus to have bombs raining down on them was just not a kosher thing to be doing. But at any rate, though, the issue that's brought up in this is it's brought out in also in the according to South Front, Russian MOD, Israeli Air Force used landing of 2 civilian planes as a cover for their airstrikes. Once again, like they did with the Russian plane, using the Russian plane to come in to attack as they claim to be Iranian targets inside of Syria, which cost the lives of many Russian officials. This is why the Syrian government did not engage with the S-300 system, and Israel knows this, excuse me, which kind of shows the one that took the higher road of when it comes to protection of life is President Bashar al-Assad's forces not engaging Israel with the S-300 system in order to protect the civilian lives that were landing at the airport there in Damascus. In other news as well, we're kind of looking at in China right now. The Jerusalem Post is reporting. I just looked for it. I heard about it already before I found it on the Jerusalem Post. A 48-year-old man named Hui hijacked a bus on Tuesday afternoon in Longyan in the southeastern province of Fujian. The official Xinhua news agency said late on Tuesday. He ended up killing 8 people on that bus there. And speaking of China, though, and I wanted to just see real quick, I don't know if I can pull this up because I don't see that I have it up right now. It's going to share some beautiful photos with you guys of our Christian brothers and sisters over in China. I'd gotten permission to share those with you, and I don't want to pull it up the way it is right now because I don't want to reveal Actually, I can do it. Give me 1 second here. I'll do it like this here. We'll just cut the monitor just for a moment in the back, because I need to safeguard the brother that was so kind to share these photos with me here of our Christian brothers and sisters. They're inside of China. And so I'm going to share some of these with you guys. And they are celebrating this time of year the birth of Yeshua. And of course, I'm sure they know as well as I know, and many of you know, that Yeshua was not born this time of year. But believe me, for people in China to be able to celebrate the birth of Yeshua, period, regardless of the time of year or anything else like that, that's an amazing thing to have happen. And so we are just very proud of them that they are able to worship the Lord and to be able to celebrate this. These are the images here. I'll kind of blow these up a little bit bigger on the monitor for you guys there. Your Christian brothers, sisters in China. And I do want to say, I want to thank Brother Mike. I won't call Brother Mike's last name there, but I want to thank him for allowing me to share these images with you. These are some of the children there as well in China there. What such beautiful faces and such happiness in their hearts there. And, you know, hey, I know it's a tough situation in China, but I'm just thankful of the Lord that these people are able to worship the Lord. And here they are singing as well. And so what a blessing. So I just want to mention that to you real quick there. Moving on in other news as well. Besides the issue there with that coming in there, we also have another news that is coming out right now as well. This is on FRN. The U.S. is planning a chemical weapons false flag in the Donbass region. Now, that's pretty provocative. They're saying the U.S. is planning a chemical weapons false flag in Donbass. Let me show you a little bit of what the article says. The head of the DPR, Dennis Pushlin, made an urgent statement on the preparation of provocation by the Ukrainians. The DPR obtained a new data confirming the preparation of the Kiev regime under the leadership of Western curators of large-scale provocation against their own people, which could lead to mass casualties. The security services of Ukraine are planning to conduct sabotage on the environmentally hazardous enterprise near the line of contact, followed by an accusation of the crime of Russia and the republics of Donbass. These are preliminary enterprises that use chlorine, ammonia, and other hazardous substances in their production. All right, I believe that the purpose of the provocation is the unleashing of hostilities in Donbass and on the abolition of the presidential elections in Ukraine, in which Poroshenko has no chance of winning. All right, now, let me just share some things with you. I've been watching on Twitter. They're saying, just like so far, nothing happened really significantly on the 14th. Nothing really has happened significantly on the 24th or 25th as far as Ukrainian provocations. But you got to remember, just like as far as U.S. type of involvement, engagement, military activities around the world, or Russia or any other country there is, if that information is exposed, it hinders the ability to be able to use such provocations and blame it on another entity when you've exposed it by media. And this is one reason why we haven't seen that attack come from Petro Poroshenko in Ukraine against the Donetsk Republic and the Luhansk Republic in the far eastern part of the country. Russia, clearly, as we have watched and we have seen, Russia has amassed a massive amount of military hardware preparing for a defensive and even a counter-offensive against Ukraine if, in fact, any of this information does happen. Originally, I was beginning to think that maybe Russia was preparing an offensive against Ukraine until I began to see the evidence that proved that Ukraine has been planning their offensive for about a year. Russia only had begun just a few weeks ago preparing for the counter, which clearly shows one has had plenty of time and resolve to stage their false flag attacks. We have seen over and over again with U.S. backing, with the CIA, working with those that were in Libya to smuggle the weapons, including sarin gas, in through Turkey, working with Erdogan in order to use that against the Syrian people in 2013 and blame it on the Syrian people. Originally, I thought, as well as many of you, believing our own media, that this was a provocation done by President Bashar al-Assad, only to discover later, after Eren Erdem, the Turkish parliament member, brought the evidence before the parliament in Turkey, that indeed it was Erdogan who was the guilty party. In fact, the evidence was so overwhelming against Erdogan that later he staged a coup in his own country to be able to bring in martial law, crack down, arrest, and imprison journalists that were speaking against him. He later became president of the country and has since been in that position. It's not hard for them to be able to smuggle more gas, whether it be chlorine or sarin gas, from one country to the next, as they have done at that point as well. One of the fighters that had been worked with the private security firm during the time of the Benghazi ordeal actually came out recently, Pronto, I believe is how you say his last name, and exposed how that the CIA was sending weapons from Libya to Syria's al-Nusra and also the ISIS militants inside of the country, which is exactly in concurrent with Eren Erdem's testimony before his own parliament in Turkey, and as well as is completely in agreement with Seymour Hersh, the American award-winning journalist that exposed this information as well. Now we have seen over and over and over these false staged chemical attacks that have been done inside of Syria. Finally, the Syrians caught on to what was really going on and began to expose the plots and plans before they could carry them out, and therefore eventually averted one completely altogether. That's what the media tries to do today, is we ourselves and other to warn the world of what is being plotted and planned as we speak. Now I'm going to give you a little bit more information that goes with this. RT reported, Ukraine Army's Chechen allies openly admitted having Islamic State links. Well, it just so happens that the Chechens are now joining the Ukrainians. And if they have the ISIS links to begin with, and they have the wherewithal to have the access to sarin and chlorine gas and could easily smuggle it from the Syrian theater of war to the Ukrainian theater of war. Not very hard. All you got to do is go across the Turkish border. Let me kind of give you a map to kind of give you a little bird's eye view of what I'm talking about here so that we can really understand this a little bit better there. Let's go to Syria. And all we have to do is see, as I said, you can go into Syria, go across Turkey right there, and right into Ukrainian waters, and you've got your sarin gas there. According to the breakaway republic on eastern Ukraine, they said that today on rail car arrived that chemical weapons for those provocations. So as I said, it wouldn't be hard at all to smuggle in those types of weapons, especially when you have different NATO members willing to participate with this. So you got to keep in mind what's going on. It's not good, guys, what we're seeing here. All right. Now, moving on as well, RT reports here, best New Year's gift to Russia. Putin boasts successful test with avant-garde hypersonic glider. Well, I hate to break it. I hate to break it to anybody, including President Putin, but that's not a gift. Anytime we're looking at weapons of mass destruction, that's not a gift. Weapons, period, to be used against your brother, your sister, that's definitely no gift at all. But U.S. intelligence, not U.S. intelligence, but U.S. military advisors have stated that Russia and China are years ahead of the United States in these type of hypersonic weapons, and have admitted that there is nothing they can do to stop them. Now, as I've stated here on Israeli News Live some time back, when Russia was first introducing their Satan II missile system and that it would go online in 2019, that I believe that the United States would try to draw Russia into a war in order to try to stop these types of missile systems going online in Russia, because then they would certainly have the upper hand on the United States and that we would have no way back. And it has looked like for some time now that the United States has been looking for a way with their NATO partners to get Russia into an open conflict to keep them from being able to put these type of weapons into actual real-time practice. It says the Russian Defense Ministry has conducted the final successful test of the avant-garde hypersonic glider before its entry into service. Russian President Vladimir Putin announced the weapon will be deployed in 2019. He added, a hypersonic glider is a special type of warhead which can fly through the atmosphere at high speed. This extends the range of a missile, potentially increases accuracy, and makes defending against it harder through unexpected maneuvers. But prolonged controlled flight requires special protection of the glider from heat and shock produced at hypersonic speeds. China, the U.S., and Russia are considered the most advanced nations in the relevant technologies, and Moscow claims it is winning the race with the avant-garde project. Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. But it's certainly no gift. No gift at all. The UK. Actually, I want to thank Brother Renze for sending first my heads up to a different article, but on the same subject, proposing a 6-year prison sentence for online posts against religion and transgender. Also, if you speak against Islam or any of the other religions and stuff, they're talking about giving you a 6-year prison sentence. Let me just kind of give you a little heads up, guys. What is this? Just like in America. America, how many states now have signed on? I think it's 26 states have signed on that you cannot speak against Israel, and you have to sign documents that you will not be part of a BDS movement. Many are saying it's a violation of freedom of speech. Well, it is, and it's also a violation of freedom of conscience. Just as Britain is doing the same. But what is it really? It is New World Order laws coming into play. Let's call it just the way it is, friends. We can't get around that. It's a New World Order is what we're headed to. Also, a 2,000-year-old ring unearthed in the city of David there. I thought that was kind of unique there. It's kind of interesting to see. They believe it was a wedding band. It was at a mikveh. And had a pretty stone there on the top of it. Very small ring for a very, no doubt, very small fingers. And just an incredible find that they discovered there. The ring was found by Israel's Antiquity Authority archaeologists in what appears to be an ancient mikveh, a ritual bath on the pilgrimage road, which dates back to the time of the Second Temple. The ancient paved road runs up from the Shilok, or the Siwan Pool in the Temple Mount, and is thought to have been the main thoroughfare taken by pilgrims to the temple back in those days there. That is a very interesting find. Anyway, I'm Steve Benoon. Listen, don't forget, guys, we have, let me just pull up the site again, Soldiers of the Lion Conference coming up in Canby, Oregon. That is actually in Portland, right on the outskirts of the Portland area. January 18th to the 20th, we'll be there with L.A. Marzulli and myself, my wife. I'll be speaking at this conference. You definitely want to register while you still have time. You can read about the site there. You can register, and I know that somewhere on there it also shows the time. You got the prices. Everything is all listed on there for those of you that do want to attend. The prices are including the entire length of the event, whatever you're looking at. If you're picking up meal tickets for the event, everything is included for the duration of the event. We have 22 days, 21 hours, 40 minutes until that event begins. So we hope to see you there. And going to be speaking on things that I have not spoken on in any of the other conferences whatsoever. And may go back, I might touch on a little bit about my past as well. But we are getting ready to prepare a video that we'll make available to you of the times that I spent with the CIA and the evils that I've seen that went on in the government, and how both Democrat and Republicans heavily involved and some of the most crooked and criminal activities you could ever imagine in this nation. By the way, too, I've been getting threats here recently. Haven't talked about it. I do keep copies of those threats. I don't like to give them any more glory than what they deserve, so I won't be actually sharing those, but I do have some very interesting information. And so just keep us in your prayers. We appreciate it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your support of this ministry in the closing of this year. We appreciate it, and we appreciate you taking the time to help us to keep this broadcast going. I have been working on a message for marriage and divorce, and it is not what many people think. I touched on this not too long ago when I was looking at the Hebrew Matthew, and amazing things that could be said there, as well as looking even in the Greek language and what Yeshua was really going into. And I've been praying about it, going deeper and deeper into it. I think it will bless a lot of people to know what the truth of this subject is. So we are going to address that. I was hoping to do it today. Hopefully I'll be able to get in there and take care of that tomorrow. And I know I promised you guys over on Patreon that I would upload the Evangelical Connection of the New World Order from the conference. I said I was going to upload that on Patreon. I will do that by God's grace. So just give me a little bit of extra time. That's a lot of work to edit that type of information, and I need to do that from either the Tennessee or the Kansas conference. I might use Tennessee because that was a pretty good conference there, and got some very good information in on that. So anyway, shalom to you all. Blessings to you. We love you and thank you, and Happy New Year coming up, whichever New Year for whatever calendar that may be. I'm Steve Ben-Nun with Israeli News Live. Erev Tov.